Welcome to The Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Hello and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Don McCauley. Today we're welcoming program author Sonya Rhen, and Sonya is the author of Space Tripping with the Shredded Orphans. Before I bring in today's guest, a quick reminder that selected interviews are available on our iPhone app, which can be downloaded in the App Store, as well as on TV on the Roku channel and Amazon Fire TV. Our app name on all platforms is simply The Author Show. Sonya, how are you?
Hi, John. I'm good. I'm pleased to be on the Author Show today.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I live in the Seattle area. I write humorous science fiction, the Shredded Orphans series, which is the little quirky characters, and I live here with my family.
So tell us about your book.
My book, Space Tripping with the Shredded Orphans, is an intergalactic road trip with the Seismic Rock band, the Shredded Orphans. In the book, they crash land on a distant planet far from their homeworld of Alpha Maximus. The members of the band make up most of the book. Lix is the lead singer. He's edgy, but his heart's in the right place, and he leads the band through deserts and the forest so they can finally get to their concert. Ophelia is the backup singer of the group and a trapeze artist, and she's the driving force for the band to do good causes. Mac is the drummer of the band, and he's a bit of the comic relief for them. Cheeto is their calming force, and he's the one that kind of can sit back and look at issues from all sides. Justice is the pilot of the band. He navigates the Verity Aquinas, which is the band's ship, and he's also the mechanic and fixes all their mechanical problems.
Now, who did you write your book for specifically? Who's your target audience?
The target audience for my book is 18 to 30-year-old men and women, people who like science fiction adventure stories, and readers who love stories that make them laugh. Readers say my book's a little bit like Firefly with a band, and humor that's similar to that of, say, Douglas Adams or Terry Pratchett.
So could you say there's any type of central message or perhaps underlying theme that you would say runs throughout your book?
Yeah, there is a theme in my whole Shredded Orphans series. The actions of individuals, even small ones, can be effective in overcoming big corporate greed. It's kind of a heavy topic, but all my books are light and funny. And, for example, in the Shredded Orphan universe, non-corporate people aren't allowed to read unless it's vital to their jobs. But band members secretly learn how to read, and some funny things come about when they read things that they're not supposed to know how to read. The band also has other issues, which are like trying to get enough image points, or I call IP, or public opinion poll, to increase their public opinion poll. So there's a lot of social satire in my book.
So if you had to choose, what would you say is the single most important idea you're sharing in your book that's really going to add value to the reader's life?
I think the number one most important thing in my book is that people matter, regardless of their job or their family, where they came from. So for the band, they're all non-corporates, which is that I've used in the Shredded Orphans universe. Several of the band members don't have any memory of a family. Their fates are left to uncaring corporate managers, but they stick by each other and help those in need.
Now, if you could compare your book with any book out there we might already be familiar with, which book would it be and why?
Space Tripping with the Shredded Orphans, I think, is a lot like the Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. They have a lot of humor, and they're very rich in the world building. The differences, I think, is the world building and the alien characters in the Shredded Orphans universe are more similar to our world than I think the Douglas Adams books. The people are a little more humanoid, and the mechanics of the world work more similarly to our own. It has a less element of fantasy in my book. But Douglas Adams, similar to Douglas Adams, my books have a lot of social satire, but they're a little more subtle.
Now, you mentioned the phrase seismic rock. What is that?
That is a term that I made up. So it's kind of like a punk rock band. But I was listening to another book where they had a machine that would create sound waves into the ground to create an earthquake. And so in the band, they set up their equipment so that when they play at the very final act of their concert, the last song, the sound waves from the band create a minor earthquake in the stadium where they're at. And that's their type of rock music. So something a little different.
So what can you tell us about the corporations? You said they're evil corporations?
The world that the Shredded Orphans live in, the corporates rule everything. So everybody is a slave to their jobs. So the corporations control the money. They control how much money you have, where you can live, where you can go. And if they decide they don't like you, they sell you to another corporation instead of people having the free will to do what they want to do. Yeah, it's a little bit evil.
So did your environment or upbringing play any major role in your writing?
Oh, definitely. My father was a great reader. He loved science and science fiction. He worked at Boeing for over 30 years and also had an uncle that worked at NASA. I remember one summer we were at the Smithsonian, the National Air and Space Museum, and my uncle went through and pointed out, like, this, I worked on this thing, I worked on this part, and it was just really fascinating. And growing up, I also watched a lot of science fiction, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Space 1999, and even more humorous things like Firefly and Red Dwarf. All of those were a big influence on my writing.
So what can you tell us about this genre and why you decided to write in this genre?
I write science fiction and humor, which is kind of a weird mix. But I love humor because I think people really need to laugh every day. Sometimes I think humor is a little put down, but I think it's really vital to what makes us human. Science fiction genre is really great because I think it lets you look at issues from a different angle. The readers don't have to confront head-on different issues, but they're free to look at it from another point of view without taking the issues personally. So that's why I really love science fiction, and I think it's fun to create new worlds and new things in that world.
So what's been your most rewarding experience since publishing your book?
Obviously, having a printed book in your hands is rewarding because it's a tangible thing, and holding that printed book is great. But the most rewarding thing since I've published has been to meet other writers and especially other readers. For example, last month I was at the Endo Center Author Spotlight Corner, and the teens there were so great to talk to. And it was really inspiring for them, I think, to meet a real-life author. They were excited to come up and talk to me. And one girl I talked to for a really long time, and she just had this spark in her eye, and I could tell she wanted to be a writer. And it was just really rewarding to be able to encourage in somebody else to pursue a dream of writing, either poetry or short stories or books. And I really love that.
So how would you describe your writing style?
My writing style is really pretty clean. I tend to use simple, uncomplicated language. I think most readers don't want to be bogged down by vocabulary. I don't want to distract them by having to look up definitions of things. The space tripping book is all written in third person because of the ensemble cast that allows readers to follow all the different band members, not just the leader Lix's point of view. It does tend to make writing a little difficult, but I think readers can appreciate the book when they can see it through all the different characters' eyes.
So who or what would you say influenced your writing the most?
I'm a really big fan of Alexander McCall Smith. I've been to 2 of his book readings, one in Tacoma and one here in Kirkland. And I really love his writing style, his humor, and his compassion for people. His #1 Ladies Detective Agency I thought was very entertaining, thoughtful, and funny. And I love that he can be intellectual and witty, but still use clear and simple language. And his is the writing style that I try to emulate.
Now, are your characters pure fiction, or do you draw from people you know in real life?
I think the best characters in all books are in some fashion based on real people. The writers know, either whole hog or just a smidgen sometimes. My characters are all based on real people, even if it's just a little bit. For example, Lix is in a band, and my husband was also the lead singer in a band, and the drummer. I got a lot of the quirks for the drummer Mac, knowing drummers from high school in band. And so I think it's important to add that realism to your characters.
In your opinion, who should buy your book?
I think that fans of Firefly, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Red Dwarf, all of those people would enjoy my book. Space Tripping with Shredded Orphans is for millennials who love space opera, people who love stories that make them laugh without being mean or rude, and people that are looking for books about rock bands in space. If you like quirky books with bizarre situations, then Space Tripping is a good book for you.
Do you have a website?
I do have a website. It is sonyarhen.wordpress.com, and you can contact me there and check out my books.
This has been just great. Our guest today has been Sonya Rhen, and she is the author of Space Tripping with the Shredded Orphans. Sonya, thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
This is Don McCauley wrapping up another edition of the Author Show. Go out there, buy the book today, and please share this interview with your friends so that they too have the opportunity to discover our guests and their work. The Author Show can be accessed at any time at theauthorshow.com. Plus, selected interviews can also be found on major platforms like Amazon Fire TV, the Roku channel, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and many more. And whether you're an author who would like to be featured or a reader in search of new books to read, the Author Show is a great place to start. Check us daily as we continue to introduce wonderful authors of very interesting books on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. Find out more about authors and their work at theauthorshow.com. Theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.